Hello, welcome in. Come sit down and pick a stogie up. It is time for another volume of the Cinema Chronicles right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I am your host, Sir Brandon Vick. I'm I'm a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association, as well as a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association, and of course the resident film critic of the Nashville Movie Dispatch. So let's go ahead and get some stuff out of the way here. This is the final Cinema Chronicles of 2025. I'm taking a break next month for the holidays, so we will be back with another volume in January of 2026. But there will still be a Vick's Flicks podcast next month, and I'm currently working on a Vick's Flicks special edition review and rating for Timothée Chalamet's Marty Supreme that you can catch next month. So there'll still be some stuff out, and we've got some best of 2025 stuff. So you'll still be hearing from Nashville Movie Dispatch, but there will not be a Cinema Chronicles next month. And I'm also happy to say that within days now, you can buy our Nashville Movie Dispatch movie annual for 2025. That will be up on Amazon anytime now, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And I think there's some housekeeping for you as far as what's going on here and what to look forward to. And Thanksgiving is Thursday. I don't know about you guys, but I could take it or leave it with Thanksgiving. I know people, I can already feel the outrage, but I love Christmas, I love Halloween, and I love the idea of Thanksgiving. But as far as just sitting down and eating turkey and their gobblers and stuff this, and it's not for me. What's my Thanksgiving meal? I'll tell you what it is. It would be a Marco's pizza. The end. So, but for all that do love what everything Thanksgiving means and brings, I hope it's a good one. The whole year has flown by. This month has flown by. So I know that Christmas is going to fly by, but going to try and slow down a bit, try to enjoy it a little more. And so yeah, I think that's really about it. We're kind of in the process of doing my best of 2025, and then part of those film critic associations I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're all going to start voting next month, so trying to catch up on some films that I haven't seen and some that I'm lucky enough to see in advance, and so I'm deep into awards year, FYC for your consideration type stuff. This I tried, since this is the last Cinema Chronicles of the year, I tried to really kind of pack this one in. So I've got four good ones to share with you guys, and I think I'm going to at least say 3 out of the 4 you probably know or have seen. So yeah, I was trying to build this one up a little more before we call it quits here. So let's just get right to it. Like I said, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. And if you're like me and you don't care about Thanksgiving, I'll just go ahead and say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and enjoy whatever that day is that you guys spend with your families eating hog hooves. So let's get started with a movie of the one and only Jennifer Lawrence, Gone Wild, next. Die My Love, starring Jennifer Lawrence. and Robert Pattinson, directed by Lynn Ramsey. I'm right here. You just can't see me. That's a line said by Grace. It's played by Lawrence. And that one sentence pretty much says it all for Ramsey's messy marital fever dream. Per IMDb, Grace, a writer and young mother, is slowly slipping into madness. Locked away in an old house in and around Montana, we see her acting increasingly agitated and erratic, leaving her companion, Jackson, increasingly worried and helpless. The psychodrama, as I like to call it, is visceral, it's beautiful, it's audacious, it's depressing, it's agonizing, and angry, though it's never not fascinating. It's undoubtedly the personification of postpartum depression, with, I gotta say, one hell of a performance from Jennifer Lawrence. She is fucking feral and fearless, portraying a mother whose mental, physical, and emotional well-being is being suffocated from the inside out. This is via IndieWire. It says, Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson on Zoloft, method acting and the anxious romance of Die My Love. It's an interview. And they ask, again, IndieWire, they ask Jennifer, what was it like being 4 months pregnant while crawling through the bushes and dragging your fingernails across the wall? How did that affect your performance? And she says, I was in my second trimester. I wouldn't have been able to crawl through grass if I was in my third, but I found it helpful and freeing because when you're pregnant, you're in a very animalistic state. You're doing something that's otherworldly and you're feeling protective. You're feeling instinctual. And adding that element of her being like a trapped animal while I was in this animalistic state was helpful. So that kind of gives you a glimpse into what state of mind Jennifer Lawrence was in while doing this. And honestly, if you've seen this movie, it makes so much sense to what she's saying. And it's really, I'm just curious if she would be able to go to these spaces if she wasn't pregnant. Now, she's already a mother because this was her second child that she was pregnant with. But I'm just curious if she could still get there if she was not pregnant. But being pregnant really does add a whole other element to Grace. You see them in the preview. I don't even know if their names are on the poster or anything, but I love seeing Nick Nolte and Sissy Spacek in this. They're just two old pros. Sissy Spacek has kind of the more role with substance. But I will say when you do see Nick Nolte, it is a bit haunting in ways. There's one scene where they're kind of dancing in the woods. That instantly comes to mind. But Sissy Spacek is almost kind of shares a certain kind of feeling that I think she recognizes in Jennifer Lawrence's character Grace, but she's also going through her own sort of grief and going through her own grief and also trying to deal with, I think, what that means now, what her life looks like now. And she plays the mother of Robert Pattinson, so she kind of has this perspective that no one else does, because I think she sees the spiraling out of control for Jennifer Lawrence as a mother and as a wife, but then you're also talking about that she is married and going through all this stuff with who is her son. So it's complicated, and so I was happy to see those two in this. Robert Pattinson plays the husband. He's good here. He kind of plays the oblivious, kind of dim-witted partner who clearly loves Grace, but is also clearly incapable of giving her what she needs. Additionally, I got the needle drops in this are all stellar choices, but I will say John Prine And Iris Dement's In Spite of Ourselves is definitely the MVP of all the tunes. It comes in at a couple of crucial times in Grace and Jackson's life, and it really is almost kind of dead on to what that song says and how you can apply it to this relationship between the two. This is per Slate talking about In Spite of Ourselves. Why a 26-year-old song is suddenly everywhere. Now, this is by Sam Adams. This is explaining the scene where we hear the John Prine In Spite of Ourselves song for the last time. And he says, as they're driving down the road in frozen silence in the wake of yet another fight, Prine's voice comes over the radio, and Jackson starts singing along. When Dement's voice comes along, Grace joins in too, her voice soft, her eyes wide open. The song doesn't take over this time. You can hear it in them both trying to bring it into their world rather than vanish into its. But they're too flawed and too far apart. Right before he starts to sing, Jackson promises Grace, I can try harder. And you can tell he wants to mean it, just as you know he doesn't or he can't. You can't force the kind of love In Spite of Ourselves is about. You have to earn it, and one day after another, and they're out of time. So as much as Die My Love flourishes in being hallucinatory and hypnotic, it certainly establishes this kind of unique kind of mood and experience. It's also overly stylized and too abstract for its own good. We are dragged in by Lawrence, yet shoved away, it feels like, by Ramsey's imprecise narrative. But with all of her films, if you've seen them, Ratcatcher, Morven Caller, We Need to Talk About Kevin, You Were Never Really Here. She does what she wants, and her films find ways to resonate on some sort of personal level, no matter how challenging she may make it. I wanted to read a part of the Nashville Scene Review that's written by Jason Shawhan, who is a fabulous critic who is also a part of Music City Film Critics Association. In his review, titled Die My Love is an Elusive Immersive Character Study, he says, you can sense landmark works of womanhood in crisis percolating in Die My Love's insides. A woman under the influence, women on the verge of a nervous breakdown, Diary of a Mad Housewife, Opening Night, Secret Ceremony. You can feel the foremothers of these kinds of narratives stalking the woods around Grace and Jackson's new home. And though there's nothing that speaks to any specific time period, what Ramsey gets across is the unspoken weight of being alive and trying to be sociable and pleasant, even as it pulls at your feet like the thickest of mud. He goes on to say, but you don't seek out the cinema of Lynn Ramsey looking for an easy ride. She has always had a gift for making the delineation between the internal and the external elusive, immersing the viewer in character studies that sidestep narration and exposition to let us live inside another life. And our subject Grace allows for empathy, shock, revulsion, pity, and analysis. But she does not invite any of these things. Tickets get bought and rides get taken. There are temporal shifts here, but nothing that needs to be solved like a math problem. These jumps in time serve more to unify the vibe, which Die My Love is very much a vibe. Even as the opening credits are unfolding, we're immersed in a forest springing into fiery life. Is it a literal fire or something more metaphorical or symbolic? The answer is yes. So for me, Die My Love... Die My Love is easy to appreciate, but difficult to feel totally satisfied once it's over. However, Lawrence is breathtaking, bearing her entire soul, confronting what so many mothers endure but can never express. Bringing us back to where we started. I'm right here. You just can't see me. Die My Love gets a VixFlix rating of 3 out of 5. And coming up next, The Predator is back, and he's funny? Huh? Next. Predator is back in Predator Badlands. Per Rotten Tomatoes, Predator Badlands, which stars Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster Kalamatangi, is set in the future of a remote planet where a young predator, outcast from his clan, finds an unlikely ally in Thea and embarks on a treacherous journey in search of the ultimate adversary. First and foremost, I just want to go on record as I'm giving my blessing right now to have Dan Trachtenberg cook forever with these things. For Prey, which he directed, the Predator franchise was taken back to the basics and in return crafted like this brutal, bloody, badass survival tale. It was a much needed reminder of why Predator scared the shit out of us to begin with. Then earlier this year, which there was a review on Nashville Movie Dispatch about it called Predator Killer of Killers. It's a sublime animation that's brilliantly and beautifully utilized. The animation is brilliantly and beautifully utilized to enhance the storytelling, especially when it comes down to the action sequences. They are bloodthirsty and barbaric, just the way we'd like it. Also, it further strengthens the franchise by adding depth and more deadly variations of these baneful beasts that we know as the Predators. And now here we are with Badlands, where Trachtenberg continues his ambitious storytelling, further expanding the mythology while making a legit, exciting, and entertaining underdog story / buddy action comedy. That's right, you heard me right. Badlands marks the first Predator movie to get a wide release in theaters since 2018, and is also the first PG-13 rating, as all the others have been rated R before. But Prey came out on Hulu, as did Killer of Killers. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to think this is the first one in theaters in almost 10 years. But as far as the PG-13 rating, don't let that, it's not a problem here. There's no restraint felt in Badlands' thrills and violence. It's stellar and it's smartly coordinated. Playing a Yacha. Hold on. Let me, on air, let me test that. Yacha. Yep, Yacha. It looks weird the way it's spelled. Playing a Yacha runt with a lot to prove, Demetrius Schuster Kalamatangi brings the pain and the total physicality, obviously, that is required. He even cracks a joke or two. Yet what may be most impressive here is the range of emotions he's able to convey with the limited expressions that are available, which is really a huge credit to the makeup and special effects teams. Elle Fanning, she's actually pulling double duty as two synths. Tessa is a no-nonsense type of gal, has a mission to accomplish. But the other, who is Thea, is where I think she's most superb. She is, as Thea, she's a legless and quite funny, being truly along for the ride, as most of it as she is being carried on deck. That is the young Yacha being carried by him. And but she proves to be more than just a tool for him as their bond grows stronger and stronger. She adds way more emotional depth to, I think, what would be considered, air quote, machine character. It's pretty amazing, especially after watching this one, just how far we've come from that 1987 OG one with Arnold. I would think that rooting for the Yacha probably seemed unfathomable, but not anymore. It was, I guess, obviously it probably was only a matter of time before they would become the hero that we all need. This was an interview done on Phase Hero and with Dan Trachtenberg, and I really found it interesting on what he was saying as far as what his approach was going to be. And I feel like you can see it for anybody that has watched Prey and Killer of Killers and now Predator Badlands. I feel like he's really has a vision as far as where to take this world. And so Trachtenberg says it was really in trying to figure out what we hadn't seen yet. After Prey came out, I didn't want to just make the part 2 of the thing that was really cool. I wanted to think of Is there another thing as an idea that was also really cool? And there was this sentiment that I was quite aware of, that is, why does the predator always lose? It's supposed to be the greatest hunter in the entire galaxy, and he comes to Earth and gets his butt kicked every time. So I started thinking about, okay, that's the untapped thing in the franchise. Like, why? Could I make a movie where the predator wins? But I just was not driven to make a slasher movie where in the end the slasher wins, and that isn't something that would be special beyond the franchise. And that's when it came, like, okay, what if I made something where the monster, the creature, is the protagonist? That's something that the franchise has never seen. That's something that sci-fi has never seen. So that was the first idea that we had. It works better than I think anyone could have imagined as far as what ended up kind of hashing from this idea and what eventually he has created with Predator Badlands. And honestly, part of the reason why I think it works so well and why I think it kind of comes as somewhat of a surprise is that it's because it's unexpectedly heartfelt and does really focus on family while presenting this, obviously, the spectacular sci-fi spectacle with two great performances in with Fanning and Demetrius. And it's got such creative, impressive creatures and some breathtaking shots and a striking score. If I had to describe this movie in one word, it is badass. And with that, I'm going to give a Vick's Flicks rating of 4 out of 5 stars. One of the best movies of the year. I'm not sure if it's still playing in IMAX or not, but if it is, catch it in that. And then coming up next, Glenn Powell runs and runs and runs. Next. The Running Man, starring Glenn Powell, Josh Brolin, Coleman Domingo, and it's directed by Edgar Wright. Per Rotten Tomatoes, in the near future society, The Running Man is the top-rated show on television, a deadly competition where contestants known as runners must survive 30 days while being hunted by professional assassins, with every move broadcast to a bloodthirsty public and each day bringing a greater cash reward. Desperate to save his sick daughter, working-class Ben Richards, played by Powell, is convinced by the show's charming but ruthless producer Dan Killian, played by Josh Brolin, to enter the game as a last resort. But Ben's defiance, instincts, and grit turn him into an unexpected fan favorite and a threat to the entire system. As ratings skyrocket, so does the danger, and Ben must outwit not just the hunters, but a nation addicted to watching him fall. So, for those of us that are old enough to know, The Running Man was a movie that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think I mean, I haven't watched it in I don't know how many years, but it was not it was pretty silly and campy. I mean, it had its sci-fi elements, of course, and I mean, and some action. Besides Arnold being in it, I only really remember Richard Dawson being in it, who was like the original host of Family Feud, and he was kind of the host of The Running Man. But obviously, that movie is not taking that seriously. But I mean, it's a fun. I remember it being a fun watch. I should have probably watched it again before telling you guys that. But this one that Edgar Wright did is more of a direct adaptation from the book, which was written by Stephen King. So this one is apparently a lot more closer to the source material, and then obviously trying to redo that 87 version. Edgar Wright had tweeted back in 2017 that The Running Man would be the remake that he most like wanted to make. And I must say, we should be careful what we wish for, because this Running Man is pretty lackluster with Edgar Wright running on no style or personality. It's absolutely baffling that the guy behind like Baby Driver, Shaun of the Dead, and Last Night in Soho plays it so safe and boring with this material. It's got a messy tone and structure. There's clumsy dialogue popping up all over the place. And even the action, and is hit or miss, and the sequences that do hit, they don't seem to last that long. It feels like The Running Man kind of falls victim of taking itself too seriously and is in desperate need of some more humor. I'm not saying the movie doesn't try at times, but it frequently feels like it forgets how to have some fucking fun. And for something like this, and for something with the world that's been created here, and like I said, the story itself, they have so much opportunity to kind of run wild with it, and they don't. There's a sense here that Wright is kind of wanting to capture some of that 80s schlock, but the longer the narrative runs, the more repetitive everything, more repetitive and imitative it gets. It's just straight up corny at times. And yes, it's updated for our times, tackling themes dealing with authoritarianism, marginalization, and misinformation, but it's also really quite heavy-handed in its approach, and I would say it's hardly even successful. Then there's the ending. I thought it was awful. I won't give it away here, but it really comes across as embarrassingly lazy. There's no bigger bummer than coming out of such mindless mayhem to get to the quote-unquote main event, and it falls flat on its face. Now, Powell is decent and really tries to carry the movie on his back, but sadly, and kind of mind-blowingly, sort of buries most of the charm and replaces it with like angry yelling. And it's not that he's not an action star, but if you're not going to have him show off his strengths, then I'm really confused on what's the point here. Just throw Mark Wahlberg in there, Just throw his ass in there. Brolin kind of plays the cliched evil creator, while Coleman Domingo has more flash in just one of his suits that he wears than the entire movie combined. But I will say Michael Cera, he is my MVP. We finally get some sort of a flesh and bone type character rather than caricatures. But of course, like most good things in this Running Man, it's over before it even begins. But the little time we share with Michael Cera is probably the best. I saw a tweet from a guy that I follow, and I really like his perspectives on stuff. It's Griffin Schiller, and it's at Griffin Schiller if anybody wants to follow him. But he sent out a tweet review, and one of the last kind of things in it is where he called The Running Man one of the most radical blockbusters you'll see all year. And with all due respect to Griffin, I'd say that this is probably one of the biggest disappointments of the year. There's momentum and excitement as the movie kicks off, but Wright and gang can't sustain it. The entertaining elements of it come and go, yet what mostly hangs around throughout is sort of this overwhelming feeling of just either confusion or just simply asking ourselves as the movie finally ends, how could this have gone so wrong? It's just not what you would expect from Edgar Wright, and it's almost like this movie is not an Edgar Wright movie. And that saddens me. And so The Running Man gets a VIX Flix rating of 2 out of 5. And coming up next is the one we've all been waiting for. We finally get to hear Cynthia Erivo sing, "I'll Get You, My Pretty," next. It's Wicked for Good. I just want to go ahead and get this out of the way. I don't think it matters what I tell you people about this movie. You probably will see it, have seen it, and maybe you already have seen it 2 or 3 times. But I'm going to give it to you anyway. Per IMDb, in case you don't know what it is, this is the second part of Wicked, which is based off a book, but more importantly, of the musical Broadway smash hit. After challenging the wizard's totalitarian regime in Oz, Elphaba must grapple with her identity as the Wicked Witch of the West. Meanwhile, the wizard has given Glinda the title, Glinda the Good, and a public status as the nation's defender against Elphaba. The 2 witches must make decisions that seal their fates in this second musical installment. So obviously, if you've seen the musical, you already knew sort of what For Good was going to be. Wicked ended when the musical had its intermission. So this is actually the second part of it. But please keep in mind, the musical was about 2.5 hours. And this movie alone is almost 2.5 hours. So clearly there's a lot of stuff in here that was not, and some of it helps, some of it doesn't. Some of it tries to kind of iron out some details, while also it just seems unnecessary. But I think the main thing to know is that this For Good is sort of the darker part of Wicked, but it doesn't mean that it's the better part of Wicked. I think splitting this into 2 films catches up with Wicked here. There's just simply not enough material for this to be a solid kind of standalone film. I was reading some stuff after I watched this, and I saw where people were like, I mean, listen, you knew that the second part was the weakest of the 2. And I'm thinking, if we all knew that, then why not just make one movie? Because when you watch it as one complete piece, it's great. Because For Good really complements the first part. But when you choose to do this part 1, part 2, and I mean, I'm not saying it's, you probably are going to have $10 billion made, but it doesn't work the same way. And this is the case. We waited a year, and now we're watching the second installment as its own, and it doesn't measure up. And I guess as much as I saw people say we knew this was the weaker part, then I guess no one should be surprised that yes, this is the weakest part, and it's just not as good. I will say the one thing that really holds up is performances. Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, they are powerhouses. They are great. I don't think it's anything that they haven't already done in the first part, but I really do like them. Michelle Yeoh's fine, and Jeff Goldblum. It seems like everybody else is like, it's not that I don't like the performances. I just think that there seems to be a real gap between our 2 witches and kind of everyone else. And I think a lot that I liked about this one was that Glinda and Elphaba were able to kind of flesh out their characters a little more. They were able to really kind of dig into this friendship, and that has grown because obviously when they were first introduced and kind of figuring out who they are in the first one. This one, I think they're still trying to figure out who they are, more so Glinda than Elphaba. I think Elphaba pretty much knows who she is and what her kind of mission is as far as fighting the wizard and, exposing his lies. But I did see, and I agree, where it's almost like Wicked was kind of for Elphaba and Wicked for Good is really for Glinda. It's Ariana Grande gets to really kind of explore that character more, and we kind of get to understand both of them. But with Glinda, I really liked her story arc from the first one to this one, and sort of how it's almost like she's become what she's always dreamed to be, but of course it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And there's also this real sincerity about how these two women really do care for each other, even though they're standing on opposite ends of kind of what they represent, what they stand up for, and I mean, and Cynthia, the emotional and the humanity that she brings to the quote Wicked Witch of the West is sublime. And so Harivo Grande, they're both fabulous. And I the best parts of For Good is when we kind of get to the intimate, personal aspects of their characters, and not only as they sort of find their way, but also reckon with who they are and what they're meant to do alone and together. The visual grandeur still there, still going strong. The production design, the costumes, much of the special effects going on. It's very vibrant. It looks gorgeous. It looks good. There's, that carried straight over from the first one. The songs are they're not very, they don't really pack much of a punch in this one. I would say if any of them do, probably I would say No Good Deed for sure, and For Good, probably the only highlights in this one. One thing I wish that For Good had more of was humor. I feel like there's a huge amount lacking in this one. Quite a bit of pacing issues. I think that's probably its biggest flaw here. There's a lot that is thrown in there that's just unnecessary, and I don't know if they were just trying to make it over 2 hours no matter what, or if they thought they were kind of, creating more insightful things about these characters, but a lot of it doesn't work. Not very effective. I think the one thing that is kind of annoying, even though I feel like it just had to be done, is a lot of this movie is trying to set up Wizard of Oz from the yellow brick road to how Dorothy gets there, and what, kind of like the true Hollywood story of the Wicked Witch of the West, and the real reason with Dorothy and those slippers, and how those slippers came to be and what they meant, and how the Cowardly Lion got there, and the mindless Scarecrow and heartless Tin Man, and it really kind of drags it. It really kind of drags it down. And I know it's something that has to be done and they have to do it. I just wish it was kind of structured better, implemented more creatively. I don't know. Some of it just seems so, I don't know. It just seems somewhat absurd on some of it, and kind of them, like I said, it's a shame that they are basically shackled to the Wizard of Oz in the second part, because it's almost like they have to do it. But I almost wish some parts of that were just left out, or maybe some of this can be suggested without actually like going into, some of these creations of these characters. And anyway, and not all of it's bad. I mean, some of it is cool. And I mean, a lot of it is, of course, is nostalgia to show, and like, it's almost like, I'm going to go back and watch Wizard of Oz because now it's going to be so different. But I mean, let's be honest, some of this stuff are just making up. Wizard of Oz is in the 30s. So, but I will say, I did like the way that they showed the last part, which again, if this was one movie, I think all of it would be much more coherent, much more enjoyable, much more entertaining, because this one does complement the first one. I just don't think you quite realize it because of them splitting into two movies. But the way kind of Wicked opens and the way that it ends is sort of the same. And I love that I love how they did the whole throwing the water on Alphaba, what they were able to do. There is a part in there, and it's one of the best parts. It's towards the end with Glinda and Alphaba. And I had just read a story somewhere where that was just done in rehearsal. It wasn't in the script, but it's something that Arrivo and Grande decided to do. And it's really well done. It's very touching. And I'm glad that they had the instincts to do that and to also actually put it into the movie, which kind of leads me to where the ending is quite emotional as far as just the ride that, audiences have been on for this long, from the musical to now this, the hit movies. I do think it's a satisfying way for Alphaba and Glinda to kind of end it. I liked what they did. Like I said, there's their kind of scene at the end that's I thought was done really well, and it was a nice little send off for them both. Once we kind of get past the water splashing part, they kind of have to do their typical wrapping up thing. But even then, I don't hold much against them for doing that. So the good news is that at least it ends. At least it ends in a good way, because again, it's really truly about Alphaba and Glinda, and I wish we kind of stayed with that more instead of kind of venturing off with all the other shenanigans and again trying to set up Wizard of Oz. But yeah. But there's so many parts that drag it down, and I guess you could say that it ain't defying gravity no more. I wanted to make sure I got that dig in before I ended this. But yes, in the end, I think you'll leave satisfied. But clearly, there is a huge difference between the first part and the second part, which again leads me to believe that I think you could have just done one movie. But hey, when there's money on the table, let those witches fly. So, Wicked for Good is getting a VixFlix rating of 2.5 out of 5. And that is it. Again, no Cinema Chronicles next month, but do be on the lookout for a VixFlix podcast. Got a lot of best of 2025 stuff that's going to be posted throughout the month, as well as my review and rating for the new Chalamet movie, Marty Supreme. Don't forget to be on the lookout for our Nashville Movie Dispatch Movie Annual 2025. I think it's bigger than last year. We got like over 200 pages worth of reviews and lists and rankings, and so pick it up, read it now, get it for a friend, get it for family for Christmas, whatever. Just be on the lookout for it. Everyone Nashville Movie Dispatch is pretty pumped about it. And that's it. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And until January, just go see a damn movie. Oh.